Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this Rutland SACRE meeting. I can now confirm that we are quorate. Unfortunately, the chair is not available and we have no vice chair as he retired. Hang on, I've just had an email from the chair. Bear with me. The chair has just emailed me to say he is having a couple of IT issues trying to connect. I have just sent in the link for the meeting, so hopefully he should be joining us sooner rather than later. In the meantime, would anybody like to nominate themselves to be the acting chair until he comes in? I can nominate myself. Is everybody happy for me to chair the meeting until he joins us? Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. That's unanimous. Hello, Gurdif. Hello, can you hear me?
I can indeed. Good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, Gurdif. You are still the current chair, so are you happy to take over from me and continue to chair the meeting?
I'm happy to do so. Can I just say my apologies for not being there in person?
Thank you.
Have we actually started on the agenda? I missed the first part.
We can start from right from the beginning of the agenda, actually, Gurdif, because we hadn't started the meeting. So we will have a moment for reflection, please.
Yep, certainly. Okay, a moment for reflection. We gather together here today intent on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, guided by understanding and wisdom. We seek to serve with respect for all. May our personal beliefs give us strength to act honestly and well in all matters before us. Thank you. If we move on to the agenda item 1, welcome to everybody. And are there any apologies or are there new faces around the table?
Thank you, Chair. We are currently, I was going to say we're going to receive apologies from Amanda Fitton, who was going to try and join us virtually. She's just this minute joined us, so I will promote her to be a panelist.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just seeing if I can see it. Sorry, are you plugging Amanda into the call? Here we go. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, good afternoon, Amanda. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello. Sorry for being late. I've literally just
Thank
dived through the door.
you. We've only just started. Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to item 2, record of the meeting that was held back on the 14th of March, which is in the document pack. Are there any comments from anybody about the matter of accuracy, or are we happy to accept them as being accurate? I guess I'm taking the view of people are accepting accuracy unless otherwise stated. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Minutes have been approved.
Great. Item 3 relates to the actions that were now carried forward from the previous meeting. There are in total 6 items. So if we work through them, item 1 was reference 6 in the log. It related to the development plans, and it was an action allocated, Amanda, to yourself and myself. So this was about the new development plan should include the assessment that we carried out. So I guess we haven't started that, other than we now have the full assessment, the self-evaluation assessment, so we can now put that into the development plan and build on that. So I would like that to be part of, if it's agreeable, the preparation for the development plan, which we should be talking about later today anyway. Item 2 was in relation to the feedback with, it confirmed the feedback from the meeting held on Thursday, 16th of March with Jane Lewis, Assistant Diocesan Director of Education, Diocese of Peterborough, would be provided at the next meeting. So that's this meeting. So Amanda, did you manage to make contact with?
Yes. I'm just looking for my notes. Actually, I met with Alex. Dan and myself met with Jane. It was a really nice meeting. We got lots of things to going forward regarding working together and being actually looking at network meetings and going to teachers. So I see Mary Ann's there. So I actually want to meet with her as well to work out specific dates which really suit teachers within Rutland of how we can go forward with this. So I've got lots of notes. I need to write it all down and send it to you if that's okay, Mary Ann, if we can actually perhaps meet perhaps at the end of July perhaps, or beginning of September. And it is trying to work together with both. Brilliant. I'll send you an email, Marianne. And it's really about working together with the diocese, with all the schools and the academies, and bringing those in as well, and working out what training needs and everything we can add to, but not necessarily step on the diocese, what the diocese offer as well. So it's working in a really good partnership.
Okay, thank you for that, Amanda.
Well, is Dan here? Does he want to add anything?
Is this working? Sorry, I've not used one of these fancy pieces of equipment before. Is that working for everybody?
We can hear you, Dan.
Nothing really to add there, Amanda, other than to say, yeah, it was a really successful meeting. We talked about the organisation of the network meetings, particularly, didn't we, Amanda? In that, I think one of the things we came away with was that you were going to lead next academic year's networks, but with the view possibly in the future for schools to begin to lead those more independently through a particular. Sorry, Amanda, may you remind me of the particular scheme that was going to be
we're
led
looking
through.
maybe actually just actually kind of aligning it with NatTray, and actually also I think also Dan, it's actually having spoken, done some work, it's also with the hubs, the Eastern Hub as well, which is actually was mentioned at the SACRE meeting on the SACRE conference as well. So yeah, it is actually, so it's trying to make them a bit more, perhaps the schools developing their own, and then we support them.
That's it. Thank you, Amanda. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any next steps on that item?
It is really, I want to meet with because Marianne's really good at it. I've worked with Marianne on these before, and it's just working out actually what is the best times for teachers, as she's there at the kind of like at the she's there at the front of these things. So yeah, and it's just actually then having a meeting with Marianne when she's available.
Fine, thank you. So we'll just carry that action forward to the next time around. Third one on the list is a letter, Amanda, you and I were going to write on behalf of Rutland SACRE to all councils and MPs, local MPs, regarding RE teacher recruitment. I've got to put my hands up. I didn't do it. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it yourself, Amanda.
I haven't. I have been conferenced out. I really have been. It's been conferenced out.
Okay, so we'll make a commitment. We'll do that very, very quickly after today's meeting. So we'll carry that forward just to make sure it's a prompt there on the log. Item 4, it was queried if SACRE would be able to monitor and evaluate schools' performance against the new agreed syllabus. So it's an action for Amanda. Amanda confirmed, or SACRE RE advisor confirmed, that this would be included in the new SACRE's development plans, and it would be a standing item at future network meetings. Amanda, a reflection on that?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah, I think
so
it's actually, yeah, I think it's just doing all the monitoring we have been doing, and perhaps sending a survey out in around about probably this time next year to see actually how they're doing and what they're doing and how it's going with schools, and if there's any tweaks we need to make to the non-statutory parts.
So can we convert that into 2 parts? And one is the preparation of a questionnaire, and secondly, as a future item to send it, a future agenda item to send it out. So if we did that, if we carry forward a new action, the development of a questionnaire, Amanda being the owner, when would we, which SACRE meeting would we want it to be on as a future item?
I suppose
questionnaire.
Oh, I think actually probably review the questionnaire, the one before this meeting. So it's at the April meeting to review the questionnaire to make sure that SACRE are happy with it, and then get it sent out in between that April meeting, and hopefully this one will have some results.
Okay, Jane, are you content that's clear?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I will make a note of that and action that.
Thank you. Item 5 was for Lizzie and Amanda. This was in relation to the group requested if children's work regarding RE and diversity could be viewed by SACRE members.
Apologies, Chair. Bjorn has his hand raised for a question.
Thank you. That is regarding the action 4. A question: has in the past any SACRE member actually visited schools as part of the evaluation against performance? And if not, is it something that we could add, in the future? Because I would personally be rather keen to visit schools to see how they teach RE. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just ask Amanda for advice on that matter? So SACRE members have been to schools in the past, but not necessarily to monitor and evaluate performance. Is there any reasons why we could or couldn't do that?
Technically not. Technically not. We'd have to ask the school's permission. And I suppose it's just actually telling them that actually you're just there to have a look to see what happens, and that actually there's going to be no comments or anything that's going to be made, or any performance comments are going to be made. So it's actually asking teachers, could we come and find out? I suppose it's a finding out of what you do and what you're teaching. Technically, I can't see anything wrong. Is Lizzie with us? Sorry, because I wasn't here. Is Lizzie with us? I don't know what you feel.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I guess it's up to schools whether they want someone to go and have a look around, because obviously with the judgments, that would be an Ofsted thing to judge schools based on their curriculum. So it's up to schools whether they're happy, and we can ask schools if they're happy for people to come and visit and just to have a look around, but obviously not make comments about performance.
Sheila has her hand raised.
Thank you. Yes, not so much observing an RE lesson, but I have with other SACREs gone in and taken part and observed collective worship. And I think we added value to be able to do that. So that worked quite well. Yeah.
Reverend McWhirter.
Thank you. I was just wondering whether, in fact, we as a SACRE in our statutory responsibility to advise the local education authority or the council here on RE and collective worship, whether in fact we also could look at trying to develop within our own SACRE here the skills that might be able to make an assessment of and evaluate the quality of RE and collective worship in schools.
Lizzie, do you have any comments on that?
I think that it's a really tricky area to get right, because what we want to do as a SACRE is we want to engage with the schools that we're working with, to get in and find out what's going on. Whether or not we would be the right people to make a judgment on the quality would be tricky, because like for my school, for instance, where I'm head teacher, I'm a VA school. So Ofsted can't grade me on my RE. The diocese can grade me on my teaching of RE. And then in other schools, it would be that somebody had a lot of Ofsted training in order for them to carry out assessment. So I think it would be quite tricky unless we had somebody who had gone through that quite rigorous training process to be able to get in. But what we definitely can do is get in more, as Bjorn is saying, to go and see what's going on and get a flavour and look at the work. And yeah.
Do you have a response, Reverend?
Yeah, I do. You can call me James. You don't need to. Yeah, I'm just wondering, as a SACRE, in these meetings that we have here, whether we could ask people with that kind of experience to come in and to and share what we understand by quality in RE. I think that would be very useful. And we'll see how far that goes with our own understanding. Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think, Lizzie, you've prepared some that we're going to look through later in terms of the recent Ofsted reports and if they've referenced the teaching of RE. And we looked through all the previous reports, didn't we, to see what had been noted as well, which is a good indicator. But you're right, it'd be great to get some up-to-date expertise to come in and enhance our understanding.
And especially, I don't know whether we can have more than one speaker at the same time, but especially as the curriculum is changing and the subject is changing, I think we would all appreciate it if we could develop our own understanding as the curriculum is changing. So there's development work there for us as well.
Amanda, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. I think actually getting the flavour, I like the kind of the quote of actually of getting a flavour of what is going on in our schools is a really nice thing, way of doing it, and perhaps actually looking for really good practice, which I think you can do, and say some really good practice there, and commenting on it. So I think the flavour of actually what good of RE within our schools and collective worship is a good way forward.
Chair, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. So if I can just summarise that point then, which is in relation to item 4 on the log, originally about the being able to monitor and evaluate. So I guess the conclusion we're drawing is not so much about monitor and evaluate, but absolutely, because we've done it in the past, to observe either and or collective worship and RE lessons, And it's a really interesting point about the changing nature of the landscape, and it would be helpful to be able to understand quality better given this change of landscape. So it would make a lot of sense to be able to invite guests in. So I think that's an action, preferably at the beginning of the journey as well as throughout, so we can see how that evolves our understanding and how quality is measured. But it would be more about us understanding how we then use that information to help teachers going forward. So perhaps that's something we could consider adding into the development plan, because I suspect there'll be a gap and there'll be a journey to try and bridge. Is that agreeable for everybody? Thank you.
There are lots of nodding heads here, Chair.
Thank you. So Lizzie, was there anything else you wanted to add on about item 5?
Yeah, so if we can get someone to come in to the SACRE meetings to discuss kind of findings around schools, that's when we can bring in children's work, so we can look at the big picture, so we can look at everything together.
Can I just add that? Sorry,
James, if you want to come in first and then Amanda.
Sorry, thank you. Can I just add that this isn't sort of a new thing. There are plenty of people that advise SACREs about just this question. So I'm sure we'll be able to find some really good people who can help us through this and guide us. Thank you.
Amanda, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I think actually what Lizzie says is actually combining those two together, because actually then it's the people, the teachers can actually talk about their own children's work rather than us, perhaps me and Lizzie getting some and talking about it, where they'll actually have the personal knowledge of what they're doing and where it came from, and perhaps actually if they've done something really special, where that came from and how that got there. And I think that works a lot better than perhaps Lizzie and me just getting some work and bringing it in.
Okay, so on that point then, if we agree, we'll close off item 5. We've covered it partly in item 4, and the aim being is let's hear it from the originators rather than brought in separately. If we move on to the final item on the action log, item 6, which was Amanda, SACRE area advisor confirmed the information about the agreed syllabus conference and the 16 workshops will be sent out to all the schools, as well as the timetable of activities for distribution to SACRE members.
It was all sent to Lizzie. It was all sent to Lizzie, and it all went out to schools, and Lizzie sent it out on a few times.
Thank you. So just for completeness, is there anything else on the action log anybody wishes to raise? No, in which case then let's move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is about SACRE membership. Part A is the election of a new chair. So Jane, would you kindly walk us through the procedure?
Thank you, Chair. Every year we vote in a new chair to the Rutland SACRE. Do we have any nominations for anybody to stand as chair for the next municipal year?
Is Gurdeth allowed to restand again?
Absolutely,
right,
yes.
Okay, good if I nominate you. If you want to be nominated, sorry.
I'm very happy to be nominated. Thank you for that. I was just going to open to if anybody else wanted to. I'm more than happy to step to one side.
Are you taking seconders as well?
We are indeed, yes.
I second Gurdith.
Thank you. Do we have any other nominations for chair? No. Did everybody vote for Gurdith? Could you please raise your hands? Everybody. That's unanimous, Chair.
That's very kind, but I think that's because that means nobody else wanted to come forward as chair. Thank you indeed.
You're brilliant.
Let's move on then to the second part of that, part B, the election of a new vice chair. So we had Andrew resigning earlier at the previous meeting, so we have a vacancy at that post as well. So
Thank
do we
you,
have
Chair.
Sorry, Jane, go ahead.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, I said the previous Vice Chair has retired, and so we are now have a vacancy for a Vice Chair. Do we have any nominations from anybody who would like to take the role of a Vice Chair? All it entails is chairing meetings if for whatever reason the chair cannot attend.
Might I make a nomination? I hope the nominee would be willing to accept the nomination. Might I nominate James?
Do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Do we have a seconder, please?
I second that.
All those in favour of James being the Vice Chair? That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Sorry, part 4C is now moving on to appointment of new members.
Thank you,
Just scroll
Chair. I've done a quick briefing for everybody, which is in the agenda pack, which details what the Rutland SACRE membership consists of. I'd like to welcome Madeline as the newest member of the group. Madeline is here representing the Baptist Church. I have listed the number of representatives we are permitted from the different faiths. I have emailed all the organisations and I've had no responses yet. The only response I received was from the Humanists Society, who have noted that Mr. Hull had retired and resigned, and they said they were advertised for a new member for us, but no news as yet. The main issue is the teacher representatives. We are allowed 5. We currently only have 2. Would members like me to write as the clerk to schools asking for additional members? Yes.
Can I just ask you to clarify, because on one thing you've got the group C is teacher representatives, and on page 5 you've got the group C as teacher associations. And I know when I was first on SACRE, I represented the NEHT. So it's whether we are representing teachers or the unions.
It is the teachers. If Amanda's coming in, yes, I can see you. Amanda.
Hi, sorry, yes, no, it is technically speaking, sorry, Jane, it is the unions. Under the law, when you look at the law, actually, it is actually saying it teaches unions. But there's a big thing about that of actually should we actually be able to know, there's a bit of a GDPR thing of actually really we shouldn't be asking which unions teachers belong to, because actually it's not really that's their response, that's their business, and we shouldn't be advertising that out. So in a way it's quite old, it's called quite old representation, so that's technically what the term is. But personally, I think actually having done this exercise in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, writing out to teachers was the best thing we did, and we actually got more teachers wanting to join than we could actually accommodate. Also, I have been apparently Julia Ewens, the humanist, who is on Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, has actually been asked if she would temporarily join Rutland again, and it's up to yourselves whether you would accept her.
So can I just break that into 2 parts? So
yeah,
part of the teacher representative, the recommendation is to write to teachers, inviting them joining SACRE. So I'm in favour. Is everybody else in favour of the same? Yeah, I can see some nods. and some hands. So Jane, if we could action that as the first part. And secondly, with regards to a humanist representative, we have a nomination in the form of Julia. And the question, so Amanda, is that from Julia? She's happy to represent the humanist.
She's happy represented because she can actually, because of Zoom now, she can join by Zoom, even though she's in Suffolk, and she actually did come up and represent it before Andrew joined beforehand. She's happy to do that on a temporary basis if everybody in Rutland is happy for her to be there, and and accepts the fact that she also sits on Peterborough and Cambridgeshire.
Okay, so again, I'd be very happy. I know Julia from Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Is there any, is everyone else content with the same? I think that's nods again. And
you have your hand raised?
Yes, as far as I understand, that the two teacher representatives I can see are from primary schools. Might it be kind of like, you know, an idea to especially, I won't say target, but focus on getting a representative from a secondary school? And I am a secondary school teacher, but I don't think I can double up, can I? No. Oh, well.
Okay, sorry, can I just close off the prior issue about are we content with asking Julia to represent the humanist society at this council, at Rutland SACRE? Yep. So that's
Can I have a
yeah.
show of hands, please? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda, can you send me Julia's details, please? Contact
Yes,
details, and I'll be in touch.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
will introduce her by email, Bob.
Great. And sorry, Bjorn, I beg your pardon. Do you want to just repeat what you said? I caught most of it. I didn't catch it all.
No, I just mentioned that as far as I understand, there aren't any secondary school representatives on the SACRE. So if we could, in sending out the letters, perhaps focus or with, you know, well, double urgency or whatever, you know, target focus on the secondary schools in the area, to hopefully have a representative of them here. And the second one was answered, so I can't double up as a teacher as well. So that was the answer to my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarity from my point of view, if Bjorn, is there a fifth person that might also represent Group A and consequently allow then Bjorn to be a teacher representative under Group C?
Sorry, Chair, can you just repeat that, please?
Yeah, if there is an alternative person for Group A, does that then allow Bjorn to be part of Group C? So do we have a fifth person for Group A which we could substitute in?
This is where it gets complicated, because members can only represent one group. So they can either be in Group A, Group B, Group C, or Group D.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So what I guess what I'm asking is, hypothetically, if Bjorn was part of Group C, that creates a vacancy in Group A. Do we have another person for Group A?
We would require another person from the Roman Catholic Church representative.
Okay, so I suppose whichever way that there is a gap, so it might be sensible continue the process we got, which is to find a further teacher representative and probably focus in particular on secondary.
Daniel?
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say I agree with that, because I suppose what we want to do is we want, Bjorn's already here, which is fantastic. And what we want to do is we want to engage more local educators, don't we, as our primary goal. So I think the idea of Bjorn still representing who he's representing at the moment and looking for local teachers to engage with is preferable from my perspective.
Okay, happy with that. Thank you. And then we have. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I just comment? In answer to the question, I would very much support writing to schools to see if we can get some more teachers. because really we're short of teachers, and I think we've been short of teachers for a while, but we really do depend on teachers. So I greatly support that. And your point about secondary teachers as well is well made. I notice here on the list that it's not just teacher representatives, but also education support staff. Is that right? So we want to include them on the letter. And I'm wondering whether also multi-academy schools or trusts, is there any reason why teachers from multi-academy trusts couldn't be part of this group?
Not that I'm aware, but thank you.
I was just going to say, in Rutland, there is now only one school that is not in a multi-academy.
Yes, exactly.
I speak as Dan and I both here as local head teachers. I think you would be hard pushed not to have somebody from an academy now.
Yes,
Really focus on
so
one school.
I suppose the follow-up from that is we need to try and encourage and strengthen this SACRE with representatives from trusts.
And sorry, I think I asked that question before in a previous meeting. Would that include the independent schools in the area as well? Because obviously that would broaden the pool rather significantly.
Yes, I can definitely write to them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Can we just clarify about Group D? We have 2 TBCs there.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Following the elections, Chair, we have some new local councillor representatives on the Rutland SACRE. We have Councillor Christine Wise and Councillor Steve McRobb, which is this is their first meeting. So welcome.
You've got the line right there.
Powell. Did Councillor Powell win her seat again?
Councillor Powell is the named substitute. So if unfortunately either Councillor Wise or Councillor McRobb can't make the meeting, then they should contact Councillor Powell to see if she's available to attend in their stead.
That's great, thank you. Just for our new colleagues on SACRE, might we introduce them towards where we have some induction information, a bit about SACRE, and that might ease into ready for next term's meeting. Is that something, Jane, you could help with?
Yeah, I could certainly sort that out. I will speak with Lizzie and we will get something sorted.
Thank you. Okay, and the LEA officers, we have a full complement. Does that cover all the groups now?
It does, Chair. Sorry, Sheila, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Jane. Can I direct new people to the NASACRE, the National Association of SACRE website, please? Because there's so much information on there on the different roles of different people on SACREs and maybe a wider understanding. Is that okay? I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
And just for completeness, if we could probably put a link into the minutes of the meeting, that'll help us remember that as well going forwards. Thank you. All right, so that then completes the SACRE membership item 4. And in light of talking about NASACRE, that nicely leads on to item 5, which is the conference update. And that's with James and myself. I'm going to limit that to James because I failed miserably to attend. So James, if you could kindly talk us through your experience of the event, and thank you for sharing your notes as well that went with that.
Yeah, thank you. So I've included the summary in the pack. And I just wanted to say that the National Association is 30 years old. And therefore, this was in many ways an anniversary for NASACRE. And it was a great joyful occasion. The meeting was held in London at the Fishmongers Hall, which was a rather grand place to have a meeting. There were a number of key speakers, 3 in fact. One was Dr. Catherine Wright, who is Chief Executive of the Cullum St. Gabriel Trust. She spoke about an education in religion and worldviews, and then the next 30 years. I think it's well worth making a comment that Cullum St. Gabriel's is a great help and benefactor to the RE community, in that they provide grants for research. And it is a trust which is dedicated really for the furtherance of this subject. Now, the aim of the trust, as I've written here, is a broad-based critical reflection on religion and worldviews, contributing to a well-informed, respectful and open society. No, I certainly agree with that. And I'd invite you also to also embrace that kind of view, really, of the subject. So NASCA has 4 aims, and it is to strengthen voices. I think we can see this in relation to the subject and our work, actually. We're talking also about collective worship, but our work in the SACRE, to strengthen voices, the voices of all the people that contribute, who have something to say about the subject of RE within, within Rutland. The strengthening of innovation, that is work towards developing the subject, developing pedagogy, resources, that sort of thing. Representing the community, that's the whole RE community, especially as the focus seems to be to move towards a different paradigm in understanding the subject of RE and worldviews. Celebrating an education in religion and worldviews. So I think people in the RE community are very proud and happy to be in that community, and what they do means so much to them and is highly valued. And so I think NASCA thought it was a good idea, really, just to celebrate that. And I think we all need to celebrate the work that has gone on in the last 30 years, and surely the work that will go on in the next 30 years. So there are a number of other points that I put down on this sheet, which I invite you to read through in your leisure. If I just move on to the second keynote speaker, which was Charles Clarke. Many of you, I think, around this table may remember Charles Clarke. He is a Labour Party politician who held office, actually. He was a cabinet minister under the Prime Minister Tony Blair, and he was also Home Secretary from December 2004 to May 2006. And he had made huge contributions to the discussion about religious education during his time when the Labour Party were forming policy. He was very enthusiastic about religious education. He says the value of the subject, unlike other subjects in schools, is that it tries to address all the difficult problems of life, and this will be developed, and is very optimistic about the place of religion and faith in education. So I've also listed some strengths and some weaknesses of the SACRE that I think we would all recognize here. RE occupies the moral high ground, he says, and it contributes to a coherent society. RE brings people together. He says it's a force for community coherence in practical ways. And RE is about young people and families, influences the children. So it also influences how the children are brought up, their value systems, and the respect that children learn to have for others. But he also recognises that there are some weaknesses. For a long time, actually, the SACRE has been, you might say, underfunded and under-resourced. There has been a marginalisation of the role of SACRE over the years for political reasons. It just hasn't had the attention. It hasn't been looked after by government. And he also identifies that there is a variable capacity for SACREs. So he looks forward to the future with, I think, optimism, because I think he feels that SACRE, the subject of RE, has turned a corner. And just to continue, the third key address was delivered by Dr. David Hampshire, and he did an analysis of SACRE annual reports. And that, again, if you'd like to read that, gives us some very interesting data to think about, actually. And it shows up some of the weaknesses of reporting, and perhaps also how SACREs perhaps haven't developed their role and don't know their role perhaps sufficiently. Yeah, there is a comment about monitoring there, which we've spoken about already. What's being monitored, how performance is being measured, but the point is being made, of course, that we're not necessarily, and many SACREs aren't necessarily assessing quality. So thank you. That concludes my paper.
That's very helpful.
But
Thank you.
Sheila was also there.
Yeah, if I can just explain, I'm actually on the National Executive, so I was there as well. Can I just add that SACRE offer people who went to the conference and paid for the, are paid up members. 153 local educational authorities are supposed to have active SACREs, and they're all automatically a member of the National Association, but there's a differentiation made between those who actually pay their membership, which is just over £100 a year. There's different access on the website that they can see because they are paid up members, and it also gives them the access to the online training that's provided. And Jane, I think you send out this information, so that was sort of mentioned as well at the conference. Yeah, so okay, yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So it was good to have you there as buddies. Gurdif wasn't able to make it, and this was all to do with the trains and transport. And I miraculously managed to get there. At least one of us got there, Gurdif.
That's the important thing. Thank you. Are there any comments around the room on what has just been said? Not about the train, by the way. Amanda.
I was there as well. So just so I said, I was there as well, representing everybody as well.
Great.
So, it was very good, actually. It was very good. So, and a lovely venue.
So
I was just going to add there. Oh, sorry, Gurdif.
You go ahead.
I was just going to. I'm not really sure about the etiquette of how to come in with a point, but anyway, I was going to say it's really got me thinking today about our role as a SACRE in terms of evaluating and monitoring the quality of education and how we do that with the other systems that are in place around education. And it's just, I don't have an answer today. I need to go away and think about how we can engage meaningfully with schools, not put them off, and help them to feel part of this community. But equally establish what our role really is in terms of how do we more accurately, other than self-evaluations and the odd comments that we have from various reports, establish what the quality of education of RE is in Rutland. And I think that needs some more thought from my perspective, because I don't know what the answer is.
Thank you.
Might I suggest then we make that as a agenda item at the next SACRE to sort of have a good session to talk this through. And if people perhaps do a bit of thinking in advance, then we can try and shape what that means for us, because it would then naturally add to the development plan.
Megan?
I was also wondering, we look at Ofsted reports that have recently happened, but do we ever look at recent SIAMS reports or reports from I don't know if the Catholic Church have a similar, but you know, I'm aware a number of local schools have had SIAMS reports, and if we've also had mention of collective worship, and of course the place where we get a view on collective worship and how that's going in schools. Certainly for our church schools, of which the majority of Rutland primary schools are Church of England primary schools, would be looking at SIAMS reports as well.
Can I just, oh, sorry. Did you want to say something?
Okay.
No, I was going to ask Amanda if she would like to comment on that. Specifically, is that part of the provision of SACRE to report on SIAMS?
No, it's not actually, because SIAMS, it's not, I think probably Sheila could actually probably help with this. I haven't seen any in any other reports, and the other ones, I mean, I've sat on Northamptonshire and Cambridge and Peterborough, we don't report on any SIAMS as well, because it's not part of, because VA schools technically do not have to follow the agreed syllabus, and for a CV school, a voluntary controlled school, sorry, VC school, actually it's for Ofsted to comment on their RE, so it's a really odd one to do. I don't know what
Megan, do you have a reply?
I know she, sorry.
But is it not also true that multi-academy trusts don't have to follow our agreed syllabus as long as they are following an agreed syllabus? So actually,
Yes,
because we are, as a SACRE, we are now in a unique position, and I think I'm looking at Lizzie and thinking actually probably as a county, we are in a unique position in being a county where only one school remains an LA school. So our agreed syllabus only has to be followed, but am I right in thinking that they are also a VA school, which means they don't have to follow it, which actually, so actually, therefore we are creating an agreed syllabus that actually none of the schools have to follow. Being slightly controversial, but I'm just aware that we are potentially trailblazing a perhaps having to think about it differently, because we are going to be, I think, I don't know where the one school that remains under local authority stands at the moment, but I suspect we will be the first county that ends up with no local authority schools. None of the secondaries are, all the primaries are now in multi-academy trust, largely in one multi-academy trust, but not all. And therefore we are in a unique position as a SACRE. And I think we need to acknowledge that. I've sat through a number of meetings thinking that to myself, but I do think it's something we actually all need to, for me, it's been the elephant in the room for a couple of years, that actually we are increasingly becoming a SACRE with an agreed syllabus that potentially nobody is following. Potentially.
I think it's potentially is the word, but I think you might find that schools are using it or using it in part, unless you know differently.
So I know, as I'm looking at Dan now, we're in the same multi-academy trust, which has the majority of the primary schools in Rutland, but not all. And I know we are following largely the Peterborough agreed syllabus.
Yeah.
So but adapted and using it, and I know there are lots of similarities. I know Amanda's aware of that as well. So I'm aware that sometimes it sits a bit like the elephant in the room. I think, you know, there are similarities between all the agreed syllabus, so it depends. And of course, when as church schools, we're also being pushed by our diocese that this is the diocese syllabus.
I think we
end up in a tricky place.
I think the Church of England, who have produced the Peterborough syllabus, would be very happy for other schools to use it. Am I right? Yeah. So therefore, I think this SACRE has an opportunity to develop cooperation with the diocese, even if it's, well, I'm sure, a developing relationship, and we could expand on that. will actually deliver benefits to all the schools in Rutland. Did you want to say something?
The only point I was going to make is that in your notes here, you've written about Charles Clarke talking about the marginalisation of the role of the SACRE, and I think this is an example of that in action.
Yes.
In that, if you look back over the last 30 years, schools did have to use this agreed syllabus that we are responsible for putting together, and lots of work's gone into. I do agree with Megan that I think it's something that we do need to really think about as a group, because how many schools are using the agreed syllabus that we're putting together, that we've put this training on for, etc.
I think
Again,
it's
I don't
also,
have the answers yet.
it's also being aware that Catholic
just,
schools
sorry,
have to follow the Diocese of Catholic, the Catholic diocese.
Can I bring Amanda in? She's been patiently waiting, so we can just bring her in on that. She may answer one or two of those questions.
Thank you. I think it is. I think Megan's right. It hasn't been an elephant in the room. It's been on my mind, where we have actually schools. I think last time when Lizzie and I did, I looked at all the websites for the schools. A lot of them were using the agreed syllabus in some ways. They were using it alongside the Peterborough Diocese, so it is being used. It was actually just going back to the SACRE conference as well. It's something Charles Clarke said was that our education is in chaos. And this shows some of the chaos actually perhaps is where the legislation hasn't caught up with what's actually happening in reality. So I think it is actually working in partnership with the diocese and actually encouraging our schools to look at it, because it is actually just going through this idea of a worldviews and the changing nature of RE. And I think this is where our agreed syllabus actually helps our schools, because it does actually keep up with what is going on in actually the RE world and the changing nature of religious education within our schools and what is expected.
Okay, thank you. Can we bring
Madeline,
Megan
you
back?
had your hand raised.
Yeah, it's just a question because it's just all a bit new to me, and I'm still trying to get my head around what the role of the SACRE is. And obviously, like, I hadn't even heard of the SACRE last year, so I'm just trying to get my head around it. And from what you've said, I think it's creating the syllabus, but actually the schools that are now in multi-academy trusts, it's not so relevant for. But also, I was just wondering what, not the power, the wrong word, but like what meaning does the SACRE have for schools? For example, if people from this SACRE did go into schools and actually think, well, maybe there is some issues with how the RE is being taught, would that actually mean anything to the school? Obviously, like if Ofsted go in and say, oh, it's not being done properly, that's quite meaningful. Like, is that true for the SACRE as well?
Amanda, do you have a reply?
I do. What's it as actually? Also, even if you're an academy trust, you have to follow a agreed syllabus, and actually, all academies are actually encouraged to use the locally agreed one, because that is the one that has been put together with actually your schools, with local schools in mind, and the needs of those local schools. So there is actually, so it is actually followed, and it is still needed, because our schools. I've been working with a very big academy trust in Northamptonshire, who are actually, they don't have to follow the agreed syllabus, but they've actually chosen ours to follow because there is no other one available that they particularly like. So actually, that it is still being used in lots of other places as well.
I think Bjorn had his hand next.
Yes, actually, to address the elephant perhaps head on. It is probably important to stress the advice in SACRE, and this is indeed kind of like, with the potential of teachers going in or members going in. It's not necessary to sell it, and I don't think we are competing with other counties SACREs, but just perhaps raising the profile of what we're doing, and just, as I said, offering expertise and advice, which perhaps doesn't necessarily kind of like, is something that people know very much about. I mean, you just mentioned it, and I wouldn't be surprised if teachers or even head teachers would feel, similarly, that they actually don't know necessarily what kind of expertise and amount of expertise, you know, the SACREs are able to provide. And on this note, I apologize, but I do have to go as well. So I take the opportunity to thank all of you and you know, yeah, wish you a nice rest of the meeting, and I'll see you in September, I think it is, isn't it? So sorry about that, but there's another appointment that's calling me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan?
I was just going to say, I've been thinking about mulling over what we've said about monitoring and the role of SACRE in monitoring teaching and learning in RE, and I think it's important to think about actually that it's not for SACRE to go in and say the quality of the RE teaching in the same way that, you know, my governing body at school, when they do their monitoring, it is very clear their job is not to monitor education, because my governors are not trained teachers and they've never put together a curriculum. And, you know, although we are involved in that curriculum in terms of what we've agreed as an agreed syllabus, with the exception of those of us who are actually in education, with the best will in the world, we haven't been trained or have the expertise to make a judgment on what is good education and what is not good education. And we need to be aware that if, you know, I know as a head teacher, I welcome you to come and see what we are doing, but it's not for us to stand in judgment. And even for those of us within education, within SACRE, as members of SACRE, it is not my job to go into Dan's school and stand and make a judgment as a member of SACRE. If he invited me as a colleague to do a monitoring visit within our multi-academy trust, that would be different. But it's being aware that that's not our role to judge education. It is to support and provide expertise. You know, I sit here as a head teacher thinking how wonderful to have the breadth of religions and beliefs around the table, and to let schools know that there is that within our county, which can often seem very mono-faith in a lot of ways, that actually being able to say, look, we have expertise here that you can tap into as schools. I think you would find schools would engage more from that. Amanda, you may have views on that, but I think that would be where schools would get much more involved.
I agree,
Chair,
Megan.
you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so if I can I concur with what has just been said there, but just a reminder, we've already said as part of action 4 on the log that SACRE isn't there to monitor and evaluate. Observation and of collective worship or RE lessons would be helpful, and it's the expertise we bring as a group. What it is drawing out to me is we still need more of a debate as to what is our effective role facing outwards, because of the change in landscape and because of the change in curriculum. So perhaps, if it's agreeable, let's make that quite a central theme for the September meeting.
James, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. One of the, I think, advices that came across at the SACRE conference from Dr. David Hampshire was that the SACRE sort of sets out its stall and decides exactly what its focus is going to be, like a manifesto in a way. I'm just wondering whether we might want to sort of engage in that kind of a conversation, bearing in mind the sort of slightly more complex nature of this county. So what are we trying to do? What perhaps do we want to promote? Are there particular things that we want to promote? Charles Clark talked about resilience and coherence in society. Those sorts of things. I just wonder whether that would be quite a good exercise to do at some point.
Yeah, I think you're actually going into the next agenda item, which is the development plan. Amanda, the agreed syllabus launch update, any further information?
Oh, well, I am conferenced out at the moment. It's next Thursday. I am going into the Marriott tomorrow just to make sure everything is okay. I'm meeting them tomorrow. We have totally sold out. We sold out a few weeks ago, but I do have one space left for anybody on SACRE here who would like to come next Thursday and be part of it. You are more than welcome to attend. And if you could just give me your name and any dietary needs, that would be lovely to see you. Gerdiv is doing a lovely workshop. We've got lots of workshops. So yeah, it's all going ahead. And I will just be really glad when it's over, because it's just, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of organisation to make, because I'm just so conscious I want it to be really, really successful. But I will be sending Jane you the final version of the agreed syllabus next week to go live next Thursday if possible, and I'm organising that across Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, so schools will be able to access it from Thursday. So yeah, that's it. The conference is going ahead and it's all there.
Daniel, you've got your hand raised.
Amanda, I have it in my diary that I'm coming along, but I am not sure if I have actually booked a place. So if nobody else would like to go and I haven't officially booked a place, could I book that last one that you mentioned, please?
Of course you can. If nobody else minds. Yes, I'd love to have you there. Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
I will email you the details on the programme. And if you've got any dietary needs?
No dietary needs, no.
Oh, fantastic. No, that's fine. It's at 8:45. I'll send it all to you, 8:45 at the
Brilliant.
Marriott.
Thank you, Amanda.
No problem.
Chair, back to you.
Yeah, just probably a question for Amanda for clarification. From a Rutland point of view, what's the participation expectation? So have we got good representation?
I haven't got those. I knew you were going to ask me that, and I haven't got those final figures yet. I'm just waiting for bookings. I need to go into the Marriott tomorrow just to make sure everything's all right before I go to bookings to get all that done. And I wanted to go there personally tomorrow to make sure everything's okay before we get the final register tomorrow. But I can send that through to Jane when we do.
Yeah, that would be helpful just to make sure we've got good representation from the county. Thank you. Okay, any more comments on the agreed syllabus? No. Let's move on to item 7, the development plan. So I didn't, sorry, apologies if it's there. I didn't see page 17 and 18 in the pack that came out. I was going to ask though, shall we pause on the development plan on the basis twofold? One is we were going to incorporate the self-assessment, but in light of today's discussion about some of the really big questions and probably some of the feedback we might get from the agreed syllabus launch, shall we move that to September and to feed into it the reflections of those discussions we're going to have next term as well?
That would make sense, Chair.
Yep, let's do that. In which case, then let's move on to item 8. Amanda, any updates on the network meetings?
Only that we haven't, because of actually the conference. There's none actually. It's only the meeting I had with Jane and Dan, and again, obviously, it's now meeting actually with Marianne to work out the next steps of where to go forward and making sure actually we've got this up and running and what the teachers want next year and what the teachers really need next year, and working with the diocese.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 9, training attended by SACRE members. Is anything anybody wish to share with us? No.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, hand gone up. Beg your pardon.
Sorry.
Sheila.
Yeah. So RE Hubs training, have we mentioned that at all? It was mentioned at the conference. I think you wrote something at the bottom of your report, James. There's a new, the REC Council, I think it is, or is it NATRE, has started the RE Hubs anyway. There's a new website, again, perhaps we can send the link through. RE Hubs training is for school speakers, actually, and you can get kite mark accreditation. It's a one-stop shop where people can input their area of expertise, the pupils, students, the age range they're happy to talk to, the area because we've got RE hubs now all over the UK. There's a list somewhere I saw of people who are locally the leads for the RE hubs. So it's a whole new development area that's happening. So I've got a flyer that sort of talks about but there is a new website link. I mean, I can let you have it if that's okay, Jane.
That would be really
There's a lady
useful.
called Claire Clinton, who is, she is a very professional educator for many years, and she's been appointed to run this new project, and it's very exciting. It's a one-stop shop for school speakers, basically. Yeah.
Yes,
Great,
please
thank
send me the link and I will include it in the minutes for distribution.
Can I also make a link back to that point just raised there and the conference next week? So it's a general question. I know there's lots of activity taking place. It's the launch itself and all the speakers. Is there anything specific where attendees can go to, maybe a question for Amanda, and understand more about these links, i.e. the REC training here, SACRE, etc.?
We are hoping that actually in September we will have, at least it's a project for me and Laura, the clerk at Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, and it was part of actually.
Sorry, no, I was thinking more about at the event next week. Is there a point they can go to, or somebody they can talk to about these links and training, that they might just out of curiosity, wander over and say, what's SACRE?
I will look at it. I will look into that. Actually, myself probably is the best person at the moment.
I'm wondering if we could make that point at the conference somewhere, which says, if you want to talk about, then come and speak to me afterwards or during the course of the day. Great.
Yeah, no problem. But we are hoping September there will be something in place they can go to.
Great. Okay, thank you. And I think, Sheila, that will then help with spreading that word as well, importantly. Okay, let's move on to item 10 on the agenda, monitoring of RE in schools and Ofsted inspection reports. Over to Lizzie.
Yeah, we've got some really lovely positive comments from the Ofsted reports. So Edith Weston, this was published in March. Visitors are invited into the school. This includes visitors from local faith communities. This helps pupils to consider beliefs and cultures that are different to their own. Then moving on to Ryle, this was published in April. Pupils understand the core Christian values of the school, and conversations between pupils and staff reference them often. Pupils understand what diversity is and are keen to celebrate difference. One pupil said it would just be boring if everyone was the same. Then moving on to Ketten, the school promotes its values of forgiveness, honesty, kindness, and unselfishness well. For example, pupils discussed how to be unselfish in class worship. They then reflected on how they could show this value through their actions. They've got a well-planned curriculum in place for pupils' personal development. For example, pupils learn about healthy eating and exercise, and a recent RE day helped pupils to develop their understanding of different religions and cultures. They know to be respectful to others. Thank you.
Any comments? I thought it was really helpful and very powerful. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 11, any urgent business, any other matters anybody wishes to raise?
Sorry, Chair, there's the review of the work plan, agenda item number 11.
Sorry, I've got that as 12, I beg your pardon. The work plan. Sorry, I've got to switch my screen to another page. Would somebody want to just draw that out whilst I change screen?
Yes, Chair. Just looking at the next meeting, which is on the 12th of September, we currently have listed for the agenda a review of the Rutland SACRE constitution and possibly the Rutland exam results, though those are yet to be confirmed. Does anybody have any other items they would like adding to the next meeting's agenda?
So James, I would say there's a couple of things from today's discussion. One in particular around quality of RE, that round discussion about whether it's monitoring, evaluation, and if it's not that, then what is it that we're trying to do? And secondly, picking up on the point James raised about almost our manifesto, what is our purpose and what we're trying to share and reach out with. So I think they're going to be quite meaty discussions. And thirdly, they would naturally feed into, well, the development plan will always be there, but they'll feed into that. So those two in particular.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other items anybody wishes to raise to add to the agenda for next time around? No. All right. If we go on to the final item then, which is the date of the next meeting, for clarity for completeness, 12th September.
Sorry, Chair, there's any urgent business? That's the next agenda item. James has his hand raised.
It's more of any other business. I was just wondering whether we could invite the councillors, Councillor Wise and Councillor McRobb, if they'd like to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves. Thank you.
Well, it would be churlish to say no, thank you. So, you know my name, I'm Steve McRobb. I'm newly elected to a ward in Oakham, Oakham Northwest. I am a retired university lecturer. I mostly taught IT subjects, information systems, so systems analysis, project management, stuff like that. I've had a long-standing interest in religions with an S on the end, although I'm not a practicing or believing member of any faith myself. But I can evidence the statement by saying that I have approximately 1/2 of a degree in comparative religion from about 50 years ago. That's me.
I am also a newly elected councillor for one of 3 for Uppingham. I'm also in the cabinet of the new administration with the huge portfolio of transport, highways, environment, climate change, waste, public safety and community safety. You can see it's taken me this long just to remember the portfolio. I've lived in Uppingham for nearly 45 years, so I know the area quite well. I am also a retired academic. I took early retirement to care for my husband full-time, who had young onset dementia. And I was, my research area was leadership and management. So the concept of leading whilst not having power is particularly an interesting one. I've been listening with quite a bit of interest. Like Steve, I don't know that I have a strong leaning, although when you have that admission to hospital and you have to commit yourself, I would put myself down as a Buddhist. It is the religion I follow most closely.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor, would you like to turn your microphone off? Thank you. Chair, back to you.
That's great. Thank you for that. I'm hoping we're on to item 13. Date of the next meeting, which I think, if I'm right, say it's 12th September 2023 at 4:30 in the council chambers, and I'll endeavour personally to make sure I'm there in person this time around. It'd be really nice to meet everybody again after such a long time being remote or hybrid in some cases. Okay, if there's nothing else for anybody wishes to raise or talk about, shall we end the meeting there? All right, that's great. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good summer and see you in September.
Thank you, Gurdjieff.
Thank you, Chair. Meeting closed at 17:55.
Thank you.